Chelsea, I've been feeling pretty bummed out because I feel like the photography community that we've been a part of for so long is like, it's slowly dying. Like there seems to be just generally less interest, especially in learning the art of photography. Camera sales are down 93% from 2010, which is a devastating number. But I think worse than that, people used to get a camera and then try to figure out how to use that technically complex thing. And people like us, educators, would pull them into learning composition and lighting. That process seems to be broken. People just seem to poke the button on their smartphone and be done with it.
See, I'm feeling the complete opposite. I'm feeling hopeful because I'm seeing a resurgence in the interest in photography. When we're traveling, I'm seeing more and more young people carrying real cameras. And that's not just my imagination. There's data to back up the fact that there's a spark in the photography community. So I actually believe it's going strong and that photography is here to stay. So we're gonna have to duke it out, Tony. But I gotta warn you, I've got slides. I've got facts.
Well, I'm a huge bummer. So we'll talk to you about that. But first we want to thank our sponsor, Squarespace.
Whether you need your own website, store, or portfolio, you can make it happen with a Squarespace website. And if you're like me and you want it to be fast and easy, then you're in luck because you can drag and drop your photos in and make one in just like 10 minutes. You can do it for free and see if you like it. And they'll offer you a trial for 14 days and you don't have to remember to cancel a credit card. So go to squarespace.com/Chelsea. And when you're ready to buy it, you can use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off. Thanks, Squarespace. Tony, let's talk. Do you want to talk a little more about your doom and gloom? Maybe you need to talk it out a little bit.
Yeah, you know, part of it is we've made an effort to publish a couple of tutorials lately, which we'd practically given up on because they weren't getting any traction, but they're still not getting any traction. Like we did this kayaking wildlife photography video, which was
fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was a big effort. And we found that doing wildlife photography from a kayak has dramatically improved the quality of our pictures by letting us get closer. And this leap is so much more than you could get from any new camera or new lens. But that video in the first 10 days got about 24,000 views. I did a video on the new Canon R5 Mark II, didn't even have the camera, did a video on it. It got about 120,000 views in that same period of time, like 5 to 6 times more views for a camera that I guarantee will not make much of a difference in anybody's photography.
Yeah, but Tony, you're trying to equate like correlation with causation. It's not necessarily just our photography industry that's seeing this trend. We've been doing this for like 13 years. And the internet used to be a place where you actually went to learn, and now it seems to be a giant home shopping network. So the fact that everybody goes onto YouTube to just look for stuff to buy a lot of the time is not surprising, and it's not just unique to us. So though it's frustrating that we make tutorials and we love them and other people don't, it's not on us that that's not what people want. And in fact, the attention span overall of people watching videos online has gone down like year after year.
Yeah, totally.
I've also noticed that the general trend of these education videos that do well can be a 1-minute video with one tip. And we are wordy as hell, especially you.
Oh, guilty as charged. But nobody can learn the art of photography with one minute tip at a time. That's just not how it works. And I agree that there is something more broad. It's not just photography, but every art, every science. Young people especially aren't willing to put the time in to sort of learn. Broadly, lots of exceptions to this rule, but I think overall people are spending less time learning something and more time looking up a quick answer for a task that is immediately at hand.
Maybe we need to clickbait them into learning. So maybe it's on us, Tony. To offer you some hopeful bits of information, I saw that the CEO of Nikon came out and made a statement, and one of the things that he shared is that the Nikon Z9 is the best-selling Nikon flagship camera in 15 years. So that's huge news. So even though you're seeing that maybe photography is going away, people are still excited to buy new cameras.
That is great news. The Z9 is great, but can I crap on that point a little bit?
That's what you're here for. You're my counter argument.
The Z9 is their flagship, but it is not in the same class as their previous flagships. The previous flagships were low megapixel, like 20 megapixel cameras, specifically for sports photography professionals, and they were more expensive, like $6,000. The Z9 was less expensive and 45 megapixels, high megapixel, meaning it was sort of the perfect camera for sports, but also wildlife, landscapes, stills, portraits. It was a totally different class of camera, and I feel like you're comparing apples to oranges and saying, hey, it's outselling, but okay, but it's a totally different class.
Yeah, but if they had developed a flagship camera no one wanted, then sales wouldn't have been good. So they're adapting to the market, and that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nikon's doing okay.
Unlike some camera companies' flagship cameras. But we won't go into that now. And I will say that also camera sales are up in general over the past 3 years. I know you're comparing...
Coming out of the pandemic.
I know you're comparing it to 2010. But a lot has changed since 2010, and we can't put that all on the camera industry. The iPhone came along and it decimated the camera industry, but it decimated a lot of industries. The watchmaking industry is...
Flashlights?
Or flashlights, the calculator. And so it did replace a lot of technology, and unfortunately for calculators and flashlights, a lot of people aren't particularly passionate about them. But cameras, people are still passionate about them and need a good camera because smartphones still have not been able to replace a lot of the things that cameras do.
Totally agree. Like I do not love the images that I get from my smartphone, even though I spend a lot of time and take a lot of pictures. I also don't think camera sales are up that much, but I do feel like it has hit bottom. I feel like the remaining people buying cameras, I think we can probably maintain this level, and thus if a camera manufacturer is profitable now, they can probably continue to be profitable.
Well, that's my point. So we might not hit the peak levels of the camera industry, but if we're at the bottom right now, then a lot of companies are still doing well, they're still profiting. And you may say that like our YouTube community or our photo community is not as healthy, but it's still healthy, we're still here. So it's doing well, it's sustainable.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that you don't think that the smartphone cameras are good enough for you, but I just had a friend text me yesterday saying that he's taking pictures of his kids' sports and he wants to buy a camera, and I pointed him towards a particular camera and he's going to get it. And so it's not just professionals or even hobbyists. People still recognize that they need a good camera to get sports photos, wildlife photos, good portraits, things like that.
For sure.
Do you have any counterpoint to that? No, you don't, because my optimism is seeping into your dark soul. That's what's happening right now.
Okay. Yeah,
and this is what keeps us afloat.
Yeah.
Am I luring you to my side?
I am already feeling a little bit better
feeling
about
better?
it. Yeah. I mean, it has particular weight for us because this is how we pay the bills, right?
Yes,
like
but
it gets a little bit scary. And I've had two previous careers bottom out because the entire industry changed so much. So maybe I'm a little bit on edge. Like I'm always looking for warning signs, afraid my entire career is going to disappear again.
You know, I don't think our entire career is going to disappear, but also if it did, I think we'd be just fine. So take a deep breath, take a sip of tea, and let me move you on to my next point, Tony.
Okay.
And this one I actually give you mixed feelings. It's that camera prices are up. So even though we're selling fewer cameras, especially at the bottom of the market, right? That's where the smartphone really came in and took out cameras, is like point and shoots and things like that. But the camera industry is only shipping like 6.4% of the cameras that they were shipping in the year 2010. But fortunately for them and unfortunately for us, the value of the shipment is 44% higher. They're selling more expensive cameras, but also camera prices have gone up a lot. And that's because of massive global inflation, which is probably hitting you as hard as it's hitting us. And it's not great for the consumer, but with companies like this, they were able to raise the prices of their cameras enough to keep the company healthy and keep it afloat.
I don't even know if it's raising prices, because I think that differential between quantity and revenue is partially because what was lost was the bottom end of the market. Like the smartphones displaced all the cheapest cameras. People are still buying professional cameras.
Yeah.
And those have always been at a higher price point. So I think that sort of changed the mix to a large extent.
Yeah, pre-pandemic 2019 unit prices was $239 and by 2023 it had risen to $572. So a 251% increase over 4 years.
Yeah.
So prices are definitely going up, but I also agree it's that the higher end units are selling more. Again, not my favorite statistic, but that does mean that the camera companies, their revenue is still healthy.
Yeah, I guess so. But also, I think the Japanese companies will never quit making cameras. It's just the nature of Japanese business, as they don't really drop out. Like even Pentax, even Olympus is still going at it.
I want to tell you more things that aren't in my slides, okay?
Okay.
So-
Super optimistic things like cameras are now super expensive.
No. This one's a little better.
Okay.
So even though it's not directly related to our industry, overall camera sales are up because there's other camera technology coming around keeping them afloat. And that's like surveillance cameras, wearable cameras, other medical cameras. So
Oh, and these are keeping the camera companies like Canon, Nikon, Sony, that's keeping them alive.
yeah, because if we have this healthy buffer of camera technology insulating our hobbyist cameras or our professional cameras, it's keeping us safe. So you don't have to worry so much. Maybe we should call your doctor.
Okay, I have some other bummer points to make in
Yeah.
just a second, and I'm pretty sure you're going to try to rebuke them.
Yeah.
But first, one thing I have total confidence in is that we all need a proper website with their own domain name. Like I have northropphotography.com, you have chelseanorthrop.com. So much better than social media. Start at squarespace.com/Chelsea. Set up a trial for your new website, completely free, no credit card required. And you can see how great it looks on computers, tablets, smartphones, with no technical knowledge required by you. You can focus on beautiful images, setting up a website for your business, your personal project, whatever. Try it out free. When you love it, the coupon code Chelsea will get you 10% off, CHELSEA. Thank you, Squarespace.
I actually have to update my Squarespace because we did take really nice pictures from the kayak, and I like to add my new favorite pictures, and I haven't done it in a few months. And that's one nice thing about having a website, even if you're not selling your services, is that I go on there and I'm like, I've taken better bird pictures than this in the past year, and then you get to replace it and kind of one up yourself. So
Yeah, every photographer should have a portfolio, just their best images, not the most recent, which is what your social media is.
yeah. Before I make my next point, would you like to swoop in and poo-poo on the mood, as you're apt to do?
No, go ahead and make your point.
Okay, this one's really highly scientific, so try to stay with me here.
Okay.
Cameras are cool. This is something that I've noticed a lot of the younger generations who should only have exposure to their smartphone camera, they're latching onto film cameras, point and shoot cameras, disposable cameras, Polaroid cameras, pretty much anything but their iPhone. Do you know why, Tony?
Because they're cool.
They're cool, but also iPhones are soulless. You take a picture and everyone's picture looks the same. Maybe you add a filter to it or whatever, but there's something about having a camera hanging around your neck and getting the experience of taking a picture that's not perfect. That imperfection has become cool because photography became sterile when everyone in the world started using the same exact camera. It's just not fun anymore. So recently we went to Boston, and how many college-age kids did you see with cameras around their neck?
Yeah, quite a few.
Right? You wouldn't expect that, would you?
No, I wouldn't expect that. I would expect people to just be using their smartphones. And that does give me some hope. But, counterpoint.
Oh.
I frequently see people sharing a sample photo and saying like, hey, what camera would I use to take a picture like this? And the picture generally has nothing notable about it. Maybe it was taken with a vintage camera, maybe it was a smartphone with some kind of filter on it. I kind of wish people would be asking a deeper question like, how do I capture this mood? It can be the styling of the model, it can be the lighting, it can be the grading, the post-processing. There are so many different things, but people seem to only want an answer that is a piece of gear that they buy. And I'm seeing fewer and fewer people trying to dig deeper into the art of photography, and that's something that really concerns me.
But perhaps those little technical questions are the gateway drug into the art of photography. Because, and we see this all the time, we've been teaching photography for a long time. In the beginning of our career, how many times did photo nerds come to you and say, how do I make this picture of my cat sharper? It's a little bit out of focus.
Yeah.
Like how many photo careers or photo hobbyists were started by just having one little question that led them into the whole world. So they're asking that question that doesn't really make sense to us because they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hopeful that they're asking any questions at all. And I think it's very cool that they're buying vintage cameras because that means they actually want to learn how to use it at some level. That's hopeful, Tony. Another really hopeful thing that I saw is that according to the US government, so this is just in the United States, photography jobs are projected to go up by 4%, which is pretty much average with all jobs, but it's not going down, Tony.
Yeah, but as I look at this chart, it looks like it's from 2022.
Yeah.
Which is before the adoption of generative AI. And I think generative AI imaging is going to reduce the number of jobs in the future. So in other words, I don't think the government report is accurate, that they're factoring in this pretty big thing, which is going to especially hit commercial and stock photography.
Yeah, but the thing with this is that they're taking reports on jobs that are also family photographers, wedding photographers, experience photographers. So these might not, a lot of the markets won't even really be hit by the AI.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think portrait and wedding photographers have taken a big hit from smartphones, but I think they took that hit 5 years ago, 10 years ago, as people sort of thought they could get good enough pictures with their smartphones. But I think we're actually through that phase, like we've already taken that loss in jobs.
Yeah, but we can check back next year and see if your idea holds any water. I mean, clearly AI is going to impact us somewhat, but I think that AI can actually be still difficult to implement. And even when I try to generate something in AI, I can never get it to look like what I want it to look like.
Yeah, we still don't have very fine-tuned control over it. It's sort of good if you are very flexible about the image that you're going to be sharing.
Yeah, well, exactly. You can look at it and say, oh, these AI results are great, but yeah, I guess if you didn't know what I was imagining in the first place, they just kind of make up something totally random. So we'll see. I haven't seen all of those apps about AI headshots for your LinkedIn or whatever. I haven't seen those taking over. Maybe they're so good I don't even notice them. But
yeah, that's entirely possible. Yeah, we'll just have to see how jobs actually track. Well, you're making me feel better. Like, I do feel like there's some hope for photography as a whole. But I want to ask people out there, how do we get new people into photography? And I don't mean how do we sell them a camera. I don't care about that. They can be using their smartphone. How do we get them to think about the art of photography, the composition, the lighting, the storytelling, more than anything? All of these things that make a great image. How do we get people to go a little bit deeper than they could possibly go in a 60-second TikTok video?
I think that the community is an important aspect of that. And that kind of gets lost when everyone started just vying for attention on Instagram instead of like our original forum on Facebook was people sharing their photos, and there would be entire conversations about photography. And those communities have kind of dried up as advertising and social media has taken a priority over the user experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that photographers losing their community makes people lose the idea that there's more to learn.
Yeah, I do actually think Instagram was a big driver of people studying photography because you could get rewarded. And we all saw people getting hundreds of thousands of likes and sponsorships from just producing some good images of their van or their travel or whatever. And that has largely dried up as everything has shifted over to TikTok and video formats from imaging. So we have kind of lost that. And you're right, it would be nice if there were a better community around photography than what Instagram has become.
Yeah. I mean, we've been in this for so long, I think that we're a little blind to things. But we just got into golf. We're not good, by the way, but when you go to play golf, you just become a part of the community because you're like paired up with strangers. And the day that we were paired up with that dad and that kid, like they taught us that we needed to learn how to chip instead of someone telling us we needed a new club or something.
Yeah.
So when you're around people who are more experienced in a photo club or a photo class or some kind of photo forum, then you're getting other people with more experience saying, hey, you don't need a new camera, you just need to increase your shutter speed so you don't get camera shake. And so, it's not just about us teaching people, it's about all of you teaching each other and kind of, bringing in the next generation of photographers that actually want to learn how to do things. So I think that's a big part of it. But I'd like to hear your opinions as well.
Yeah, write a comment down below. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Squarespace.
If you need your own website or portfolio, you can make it happen on Squarespace. Or you can do what I do, which is you just put in your favorite pictures, and as you take a new one, you replace it just to show yourself you're making progress or inspire yourself to take more trips, more opportunities, more photo adventures. Go to squarespace.com/Chelsea, and you can use the free trial for 14 days, but if you want to buy it, use the coupon code Chelsea to get 10% off. Thank you, Squarespace, and thanks all of you for watching. If you'd like to see more podcasts like this one, check out our playlist, the Picture This Photography Podcast, or anywhere that podcasts are available, you can find it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.